all of this builds to it. All of this builds to it. So if you take a person, or if you take a look at these qualities, what is idealistic, very physical, somewhat reckless, what always goes away, what is pretty friendly, usually pretty happy, what aspect of ourselves? Yeah, childhood. Finny is a child. Finny is more than a child. Finny is the child. Finny is childhood personified. Do we like children? Yes, and if you say no, you can leave. We like children. Kids are fun. Kids are wonderful. They're happy little optimistic balls of energy. And if you can't deal with that, you're a bitter person. I saw Omar dealing with it the other night at the Sylvan Halloween party, and Sydney was there too. That's fun. You're watching these kids roll around on the new gym floor in straw trying to find little Halloween goodies that are really kind of pointless anyway, but they're having fun with it. That's Finny. I love Finny. Doesn't mean that I don't believe Finny must die. I believe that Finny must die. I believe that it was necessary that he die. However, I love Finny. Jean, therefore, represents why does Jean push Finny out of a tree? No. Not, and Connor, I'll add something to it. Pushing somebody out of a tree doesn't help them grow up. I understand where you're going with that. You remember chapter 12? Chapter 12 QAR groups. Chapter 12 QAR groups. What was it about, Nora?
It's about who's a better,
It was the closing statement of chapter 12 that was rather curious. Because he feels he is Finny, that Finny is a part of him. What was Jean doing when he pushes Finny out of the tree? What was he doing when he pushes Finny out of the tree? Sydney? Getting rid of his childhood. Why? Why does he need to get rid of his childhood? Yeah. Jean and Finny have a relationship that transcends friendship. How do you know that? Because Knowles told you that at the end of chapter 12. Some students before, I usually get this every year, some student reads that passage at the end of chapter 1 where they're wrestling and says, Mr. Clarkson, are they gay? And then they read about the butt room and then they ask again, Mr. Clarkson, really, are they gay? Because I'm not sure about this. And I say, I have no problem. I'll say this every year. Always said it when teaching a separate piece. I have absolutely no problem finding close readings of homosexual subtext within literature. Trust me, it's there. Look at Lord of the Rings, Sam and Frodo. I mean, please. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to see something's going on. And if you read the novel, it's even worse. All right, so I'm not trying to deny that some writers and artists decide to discuss and explore concepts of heterosexuality versus homosexuality within their writing. That's not the point. And I'm not trying to keep you from controversial subjects. What I'm trying to say is that anybody who reads this as a story of two boys in love with each other are missing the point. And the point is that these are not two boys. This is one boy. This is one boy. And this is the adult half fighting with the child half. So now a lot of this should start to make sense. Why is Jean so cautious? Because adults are cautious. Why does Jean accept the war? Because adults accept the war. Why is Jean competitive? Well, because adults are usually a bit more realistic about the world because they've been burned a few times and they realize that sometimes you got to look out for yourself. Sometimes you can't trust people because guess what? People lie. Adults have learned these lessons. Children haven't. Children love everybody. If you meet a child that distrusts everybody and doesn't like people, there's something wrong. I'm serious, there's something wrong. There's something wrong with the child's family life. There's something wrong with that child psychologically. Children love people. They might be a little bit tense and nervous in social situations, but children genuinely are optimistic and happy. And they love the world. And they want to love the world. Yes, Emily.
It kind of seems opposite from like Finny as the leader and Gene as well.
It seems that way, but I think what we've got here, Emily, is that the leader is fully based upon his risky recklessness combined with his friendliness. What do we look for in leaders? We look for people who are active and charismatic, who seem to like us and make us feel good. And doesn't Finny do that? So I think his leadership quality is not so much a part of childhood as it is a natural consequence of these other character traits. Does that make sense? Besides, like I said, people like kids. And people don't necessarily want to be like kids, because I have no interest in going back to being a child. But there's something that I admire in children, and I want to work for children. I want to protect them. I want to make sure that they're happy, my own child and others. So this leadership idea helps me understand how people kind of gravitate toward him as a value. Ian.
When he was talking to the headmaster at the
Yes.
park, how
Yeah.
come if he was childish or anything, he would lie about what he was doing? Instead of
But he hasn't even gotten that far in childhood yet, because children develop the capacity to lie. They don't start with it. So children eventually develop this sort of selfish protective mode, and that leads to lying. So by the time you're a teenager, you're pretty good at it. But trust me, I've been watching lies, or at least skewing of the truth, develop in my own daughter, and she's not really gotten the hang of it yet because she's 10. But I remember a time where it wouldn't even be possible for her to do it.
Gene is like the adult and Finny's the child. Why would Gene follow Finny instead?
Because Gene is growing up, present participle. He hasn't gotten there yet. He doesn't get there until Finny's truly dead. In other words, the end of the novel, right? That's when he finally abandons Finny. And that's also why he doesn't cry at the funeral. Why, are we sad about our childhood leaving? Yes. Do we think it's a great tragedy? No, it's part of life. The adult lives on. You will spend most of your life as an adult. And the older you get, the more you realize, wow, it's a really small minority of the time on this earth that I will spend as a child. Most of my life is spent as an adult. Sydney.
Does that seem like the beginning of the novel, like they both start out as like children and they both like in high school, like they both start as children?
It's not so much they both start as children, it's just that at the beginning of the novel, Finny totally overshadows Gene. He's dominant. It's like they're both sides of them, but as time goes on, they grow closer to war. Finny, the child half, diminishes. Gene starts taking control. And that's why Gene is now the athletic star. That's why Gene now is physically capable, because Finny is starting to die off. Does that make sense? So both halves of the personality are always there, but they shift control. All right, I know you have a bunch of questions, and we're going to play with this a little bit tomorrow, but I want to get us back to method. Allegorical analysis follows the same format and reaches to the same goals as symbol analysis. And if you have the allegory analysis sheet that was available on the website, great. Then you might want to grab that. If not, I've got some copies. Please take and pass. If you already have one, then just pass it along, please. And you'll see on the back that there's some more worksheet area. I'm not going to divide you into groups, but you can use that to take some notes. And there's some notes about allegory in the front. All right, and the question is twofold, as it was before. What does this thing, in this case person, represent? And our answer is adulthood and childhood. Now, allegory becomes really interesting because we move into the comment area, which is even more interesting than the symbol. In my estimation, the representation question is the interesting one in symbolism. In allegory, the comment one is really interesting. What do we know about the working classes through Boxer?
really hard and they keep going.
They'll keep going to the end, no matter what. Those working classes will literally, as Boxer does, work themselves to death. We know anything else about them?
Loyal.
They're loyal. That's true. So it doesn't take much to grab their loyalty. Sydney? Sometimes they can be dumb. Constantly they can be dumb. I think that Orwell is probably disappointed by the working classes, as usually liberal intellectuals are. They think, liberal intellectuals look at the working classes and say, your life is awful. You're oppressed. I know how you're oppressed. I'll show you how you're oppressed, and I will liberate you. Follow me. And they look at him and say, what? Huh? A, B, C. Okay, got that. Memorized ABC. D, E, F. Okay, I got D, E, F. Wait, what was the first three? You remember that? Boxer scratching out his alphabet,
Yeah.
trying to memorize? I think Orwell was probably burned because they were so stupid on a regular basis. So Boxer is always dumb. He's always loyal, and he's always hardworking. This is the comment. Hold on, Connor. I think we're done with that. Now let's move to Finny. What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? Let's start this off a little bit. Michael.
He's like extremely happy.
Okay. He is happy and he makes other people happy. We like that about Finny. He makes us like ourselves.
This is both a strength and a weakness. Trust.
What about trust? Oh, he's very trusting? Okay, yep, you're right. So let's throw it into the strength area as trusting. Let's throw it into the weakness area as naive. Okay. Strength or weakness? You see we're throwing a lot of the same qualities up here that we had on the original Venn diagram. Happy, trusting, naive, reckless. So we could be running into a problem. We could be running into sort of circular argument. We start with the details and we end with the details. We've got to end with some different details. What happens to Finny? Don't talk about his characterization. Look at this. Oh, man. All right, to be continued tomorrow.